Your life and your leadership today are the sum total of all the decisions you've made up to this point. Both your good decisions and your bad decisions will follow you and will create your future. That's why a better destiny requires better decisions. Welcome to the Matt Ware Show, a podcast for leaders who want more and won't settle for less. Straight talk to help you lead better, live bolder, and not lose yourself in the process. If you're serious about going to the next level in life and leadership, you're in the right place. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Matt Ware Show, where we talk about going to the next level in life and in leadership. And there's nothing that determines the level that you get to more than the decisions you make. And so today we're going to talk about decision making as a leader, and the idea that your decisions make or break your leadership. No matter what role you're in, no matter what context you're in, decision-making is one of the essential functions of leadership. If you're a leader, you are a decision maker, period. Whether you want to be a decision maker or not, this is something that just goes with the territory. Decision-making is central to leadership. And you have to understand that your life and your leadership really are defined by your decision. And that's usually pretty clear on a personal level, right? We see it in our health. We see it in our relationships. We see it in our finances, that the life we live today is a reflection of the decisions that we made yesterday or last month or last year or over the last decade. Okay, but this is true in leadership too. Our company, our business, our nonprofit, our team, our project, all of those things are defined by the decisions that we've made in those contexts. My dad always says, great leaders are not made great. Great leaders are made great by making great decisions. And I believe that's absolutely true. As a leader, your decisions today determine your destiny tomorrow. The life of a leader is a life of decision making. And it's not just the big ones, that come up once a year, once a decade, once a career, those, sort of bet the farm, push all the chips to the middle kinds of decisions. Although obviously those are important. Years ago, I read a book from President George W. Bush called Decision Points, which he wrote shortly after he left office. And whether you agree or disagree with him, in terms of his politics or even the decisions themselves, it was a fascinating behind-the-scenes look at how someone at the highest level of leadership, the leader of the free world, went about making high-stakes decisions. And we know he made some big ones, right? Like responding to 9/11. Fortunately, most of us will never have to do it at that level. But as leaders, we do face constant decision-making every single day, sometimes every hour, with every phone call and every email and every text message and every DM. They all call for a decision. Dr. Mark Rutland, one of my leadership mentors who I reference often on the podcast because I've just learned so much from him, he said the biggest shock of leadership for him was the pressure created by the unceasing, unrelenting flow of decisions. And that's true. In my experience, that is true. When you are the leader, everybody wants you to decide stuff, okay? When should we do this? How should we do that? How much should we spend? Who do you want to be there? What do you want this meeting to look like? Where should we host this event? And before you know it, you have made so many decisions so quickly across so many different areas of your business, your organization, that maybe even you don't know how they all fit together. Okay, for all you know, the decision you made at 3 p.m. Completely contradicted and undermined the decision you made at 10 a.m. Okay, don't ask me how I know this, right? This is what happens. The concept of decision fatigue is very real. If you're a leader, you can get exhausted simply because of the sheer volume of decisions that people are counting on you to make. And if you're not careful, decision fatigue will cause the quantity of your decisions to affect the quality of your decisions. So what I want to do today is give you 4 things that have helped me make better decisions in my life, make better decisions in my leadership. And I don't pretend like I've got this all figured out. We're on this journey together. Leadership is a never-ending sort of quest, right? As we're growing and we're getting better. But if these things helped me, then I think they can help you too. So 4 things that'll help you make better decisions, because decisions really are the make or break of leadership. Number 1, decide what kind of decision it is. Decide what kind of decision it is. Okay, here's something really important to understand. Not all decisions are created equal. Not every decision has the same magnitude, the same impact, the same level of pressure. And if you give too much time and energy to small decisions, you can waste valuable resources. But if you give too little time to big decisions, you will incur unnecessary risks. You have to decide what kind of decision you're dealing with. And the easiest way to get a handle on this is to work through something, kind of a risk-reward matrix. Okay, if you can, maybe we'll throw this up on the screen. Imagine a 2x2 matrix, right? Where the axis on one side goes from low risk to high risk, and the axis on the other side, the other direction goes from low reward to high reward. Okay, you've seen these 2x2 matrix before, right? It creates 4 quadrants. And so, if we lay this out, think about it this way, in the upper left quadrant, you would have low risk and high reward, which is awesome, by the way. We wish all of our decisions fell into this quadrant. I don't know how often that happens, but it is great when it does. Lower right, we've got high risk, low reward, which is just stupid. I mean, who in the world would make high risk, low reward decisions? Just ask criminal attorneys, right? People make decisions in this quadrant all the time. In the upper right, you've got the high risk, high reward decisions. Okay, those are the all-in, bet the farm, go big or go home kind of scenarios. You may not make those decisions very often, but when you do, they matter. Okay, these are the kind of decisions, if they work, it works beautifully. And if it fails magnificently, right? You get this right, people think you're a genius. You get this wrong, people think you're an idiot. Lower left is the low risk, low reward, which frankly is probably a waste of time for most leaders. Okay, why bother with something that doesn't cost you much, but also doesn't make you much, in terms of organizational life. So I say all that to say it's worth determining what quadrant does your decision fall into, because that has a direct impact on how much time and energy you should be spending on it. Not all decisions are created equal. They should not all be given the same attention, the same weight, the same time, the same energy. I remember one time I got my leadership team together to discuss how we were rearranging one of our programs. And after just a few minutes in this meeting, I realized we are putting more time and energy into the logistical aspect of this decision than what it merits. Okay, I had seven high leverage, high capacity people around this table trying to decide on a day and time for a meeting. Okay, not a lot at stake in that particular situation compared to the energy and frankly the payroll that I was giving to it. Okay, decide what kind of decision it is. I'll give you another framework for this. Jeff Bezos says that decisions are like doors. So you have to ask yourself, is it a one-way door or a two-way door? Once you walk through a one-way door, you can't come back. That's irreversible. But a two-way door, you can simply turn around and go back through the other direction. That's reversible. Okay, you have to know the difference between reversible and irreversible decisions. Decide what kind of decision this is. Is it reversible or is it not? Number 2, decide when you'll decide. Decide when you'll decide. Okay, once you kind of know what sort of decision it is that you're dealing with, then you have to decide, when am I going to decide? And this is important because everyone makes decisions on a different sort of internal time frame with different internal defaults. Some people are hip shooters. They can draw and fire and hit a fly at 100 paces. And they've done it so much, so consistently, so accurately, they think that's the only way to shoot. Other people are snipers, and they take forever to set up their shots. They calculate the elevation and the windage and the humidity, and they think that is the only way to shoot. The problem is that not everything is a hip shot, And not everything is a sniper shot. You better know what kind of shot you're taking, what kind of decision you're making, and adjust your approach accordingly. You cannot process a decision like dropping a nuclear bomb the same way that you do a hip shot, okay? If this is a major decision, if this has significant cost and risk and impact, you got to spend some time on this. Conversely, you don't need to spend 20 minutes deciding which brand of copy paper to get for the office when you're at Staples, right? They're all the same. They all feed through the machine and nobody cares once they're looking at the printed document anyway. The point is this: not every decision should be made fast, and not every decision should be made slow. The speed at which you make decisions is not based on you as the leader. It should have nothing to do with your preference or your style of making decisions, whether it's slow or fast. It has everything to do with the type of decision it is, and therefore the time and energy you invest to make the right call. Back to Jeff Bezos. He wrote in a letter to Amazon shareholders years ago that irreversible decisions should be made methodically, carefully, slowly, with great deliberation and consultation. But reversible decisions should be made quickly by high judgment individuals. And that's what I'm saying. You have to decide when you'll decide. You have to decide how much time, how much energy you are going to allocate for a particular type of decisions. I advocate setting deadlines for your decisions because sometimes deciding when you'll decide is the only thing that gets you to a right decision in the right way. Okay, the value of this is that when you decide when you're going to decide, number one, it takes the pressure off because you don't have to obsess about it. You don't have to think about it constantly anymore. You know there's a deadline, there's a decision point coming. And number two, you avoid decision fatigue when you decide when you'll decide, rather than just making decisions constantly on the fly as you go, which sometimes might make you feel rushed or pressured. Okay, here's a pro tip that I have found super helpful for me. Pick certain days of the week or certain times of day that are best for you to make decisions rather than just doing it all day long, all week long. Maybe you've heard the research on this. Judges tend to hand down harsher sentences at the end of the day than at the beginning of the day. Okay, they tend to drop the hammer when they're worn out from making decisions all day long, seeing the worst in people, the worst in society all day long, whereas they tend to be more positive. They give more benefit of the doubt when they're fresh in the morning. Okay, so think about how this applies to your leadership and decide when you'll decide. I've gone through different iterations of this, but for one season of time when I was leading a large team at a large church, I decided I would only make decisions on Mondays and Thursdays. And I know that seems maybe weird or arbitrary or whatever, but based on the way that my schedule worked, Mondays and Thursdays were when I had the time to devote to the discussion and the research that was necessary to make good decisions. And it's also when I was fresh. It's when I was sharp, just based on the other responsibilities that I had during the week. So all the decisions, and my team knew this, all the decisions would have to get pushed to those 2 days. Decide when you'll decide. Number three, decide that you can live with imperfect decisions. Decide that you can live with imperfect decisions. Okay, you have to realize that no matter how good of a decision maker you are, there are no perfect decisions. Very rarely are you given a set of choices where one is absolutely amazing and the other is absolutely awful, right? Okay, as a leader, you almost always decide between several less than ideal options, right? There's always trade-offs. There's always pros and cons. There are always things that you wish you could sort of Frankenstein the different aspects of the choices together to make this perfect decision, and that hardly ever happens. Okay, this is really hard for people who are perfectionists. You cannot be an effective leader and be a perfectionist at the same time, because as a leader, there is no such thing as a perfect decision. And if you wait for everything to be just right to make a decision, if you wait till you're 100% sure, you will be too late. Like General Patton said, a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. Now, the risk-reward matrix that we talked about in point one does play into this. Okay. The one-way or the two-way door imagery plays into it too. If I'm wrong in this decision, okay, I can live with it being imperfect, but if I'm wrong, what is this going to cost me? Okay, that's worth thinking about. If I'm wrong, what will this cost me in terms of time or money or credibility or whatever the impact might be? Okay, if you're wrong about, the brand of toothpaste that you choose, you just go back to the store tomorrow and spend a couple more dollars and you get a different toothpaste. But if you're the GM of an NFL team and you trade for a star quarterback who flops in your system, that's a lot harder. That's a lot more expensive to undo. Okay, but here's the other thing you have to keep in mind. Leaders make decisions and then they make their decisions work. Decide and then decide to make it work. That's what leaders do. Listen, you can't be a leader without making decisions. And the degree to which you are indecisive is the degree to which you are not leading. The decision may not be perfect. It rarely is. But decide anyway, and decide that you can live with an imperfect decision. Number 4, decide to delegate more decisions. Decide to delegate more decisions. You should only make decisions that only you can make. If anyone else in your business, in your ministry, on your team can make that decision, let them. Delegate every decision that you possibly can, because delegating decisions is one of the fastest and greatest ways that you can develop your people. I actually prefer the concept or the word empowerment over delegation, because I think sometimes we hear the word delegate and we think it just means, we're going to pawn something off on somebody else because we don't want to do it, or it's below us, or we don't like it, or whatever. And that's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about making a conscious, intentional decision to use delegation to develop the people around you so that they can become good decision makers too. What if you only had to make the decisions that only you could make because other people on your team were making so many of the other decisions? The strength of your organization is reflected by how deep your decision making goes. So if every decision has to be made by you, if every decision has to be made at the top, your organization probably isn't very strong. In order to grow, you have to delegate more of your decisions. The best phrase you could adopt in your leadership is, you decide. When someone on your team asks you something, just say, you decide. Teach them, train them, empower them to make all the decisions they can make so that you can focus on the decisions only you can make. Here's something we have to understand. The higher your role, the harder your decisions. The higher your role, the harder your decisions. There's a story in the Bible of Moses. I've referenced him on the podcast a few times because he's such a great example of effective, powerful leadership in the ancient world. And the story goes that when he was leading the people of Israel through the wilderness, everyone was coming to him for every decision. So much so that for a while, all he did from sunup to sundown was make decisions for all the people, for all the little issues, all the squabbles, all the conflicts, all the things that they were dealing with. And his father-in-law, who was named Jethro, told him, this is crazy. Okay, there's no way one person can make all the decisions for this huge organization. What you need to do is empower other people to make decisions based on their ability level and have sort of this, escalating system. So the harder the decision, the higher up the chain it goes. And if you have really good people, only a few of those decisions, only a few of those cases are going to get up to you. The challenge, the drawback, the trade-off is that the ones that do get to you are going to be the hardest decisions. Okay, that's the role of leadership, that the higher you go, the harder the decisions. Okay, back to that decision matrix. You may only get the high risk, high reward ones. Okay, but that's kind of the point. Decide to delegate more decisions so that you only have to spend time and energy on the ones that really matter for your organization. Okay, decide what kind of decision it is. Decide when you'll decide. Decide that you can live with imperfect decisions, and decide to delegate as much decision-making as you possibly can in your organization. Let me close with this thought. The price of leadership is that you will make decisions that other people can't make and that other people can't understand. You will intuitively know and sense and discern things that other people simply don't and can't. Leaders see more and before. They see more than others see, and they see before others see, which means they make decisions that other people will never get. And that's hard sometimes, but that is the responsibility of leadership. So embrace your role as a decision maker and remember that great leaders aren't made great. They're made great by making great decisions. And that the decisions you make today will determine the destiny that you live tomorrow. Thanks for spending some time with me today thinking about and talking about decisions. If this helped you, would you help somebody else and pass it on to them? Help them make better decisions in their life and their leadership. If there's a decision that you're wrestling with right now, maybe you need some outside perspective, drop me a comment, shoot me a DM, and we can chat about it. You can find me at themattware.com or at themattware on all the social channels. Until next time, go lead better and go live bolder.